Hello, this is David Scott Peters with restaurantexpert.com, and I got to tell you, I'm absolutely thrilled that you're joining me for this month's video magazine, The Smart Systems Insider. We've got a lot of great information for you, and remember that this video magazine is created for you, the independent operator, restaurant owner, or manager who are looking to make more money, get your life back, have a management team who knows what their job is. In this month's episode, I have a member interview with one of my elite members, Dan Carr, who's CEO of Visconti's. He and his partner, Candy Meacham, he's going to share with you their journey from growing from 1 to 2 restaurants to now 8 businesses and adding more, and how important it is during that journey to have a budget and run your business by the numbers. I'm going to share with you a software tip in Smart Systems Pro on our incredibly powerful checklist system that allows you to create custom checklists for every position, opening and closing, side work, doesn't matter what you want, and have the ability to have it on your app, an app on your phone that anybody can use, and it can notify you that things are getting done your way. I've got an interview with one of our coaches here, Lisa Rath. Lisa's not only a coach, a restaurant coach, but she's one of our trainers that goes out to your stores. And I'm going to tell you, I'm excited to be talking with her. I've known Lisa for almost 20 years. She and I worked together at Coyote Springs when I first started in this industry in Arizona, and we've known each other forever, and she's been with us for about 3+ years now. And she started off going out on the road with Fred Langley, my business partner, and literally helping implement all these systems with our consulting clients. Well, she goes around and does that for other people. She's going to share with you some of the challenges she sees that you as a member face. And one of the big ones is holding your management team accountable. She's also going to share with you what she does on the ground if that interests you. Now be sure to stay till the end, because I've got an incredible expert interview with no other than the #1 podcast, restaurant podcast out there, Restaurant Unstoppable, Eric Cacciatore. Eric's an incredible guy, and he's going to share with you his journey of looking for something in the industry to teach, to learn how to better himself and ourselves. And instead, he created the #1 restaurant podcast out there. And he's going to share with you the importance of having passion and always learning. Be sure to stay to the end. Now stay with me. In about 2 seconds, I'm going to share with you the importance of checklists and why it's important to hold the right person accountable. I want to talk to you about the importance of checklists. Look, checklists are the foundations to all the systems you put in place. I want you to think about this. If you can't get a manager to follow a checklist, what makes you think you're going to have them wake up on a Sunday morning thinking, wow, I'm excited to count stuff today and count inventory accurately, on time, put it into your system, make sure it's all right? Or are they just going to go through the motions and complain that it takes 3-4 hours because you don't have a system, right? You understand that checklists are the foundation to you imposing your will without being there. I often talk about my son who used to work for Yum Brands, one of the largest franchisees in all North America and all around the world, with over 14,000 restaurants, Taco Bells and KFCs and such. And I sit there and wonder, how is it that they can have all these restaurants and no owners in them? Yet some of us as independent operators get so bogged down with our cell phone, just going off text after text after text. Where's the plunger? And you're like, you're a freaking idiot, right? But the truth of the matter is we aren't clear on our expectations, and that's where checklists come in. So let me define it first. The first thing we have to understand is that you've got to do Restaurant 101 first. Before we do anything else, checklists, cash controls, I don't care, all the big systems we teach here at therestaurantexpert.com, none of them matter unless you do Restaurant 101 right. That's hot food hot, cold food cold, clean, safe work environment for guest employees, wow customer service, incredible product, great hospitality. That's what we were put on this earth to do. Deliver a memory, an experience. After you do Restaurant 101, there are 2 things that must be in place before you put any of the big systems in place. Dollars per labor hour worked, recipe costing cards, shelf-to-sheet inventory. Doesn't matter. None of that matters if you don't have cash controls and checklists in place. Cash controls, I want to know that every penny comes in. So if I've got server banking and a server owes me $323.23 based on their server report, I want my $323.23. You give me a quarter, I'm keeping your 2 pennies. There's no rounding up, no rounding down bullshit. No, that teaches people that you make so much money you don't care. I want to know where every penny is. Then next, as I change things in our company culture where the details matter, we talk about checklists. Opening and closing checklists for every position in your business. So if I've got bartenders, there's opening and closing checklists for the AM shift, opening and closing checklists for the PM shift. If I've got line cooks, there's a fry station opening checklist and a closing checklist for the AM shift, an opening checklist for the PM shift, a closing checklist for the PM shift. Why? What it allows you to do is set your expectations out on paper, or in our case, an online app that you can use on your phone. Doesn't matter how you do it, whether it's the archaic old way with paper or it's using our app. The fact is, like these Yum brand restaurants, it allows you to impose your will without being there, setting your expectations, a standard for everyone to follow. And what's really, really important about it is, it allows you, again, to walk away from your business and follow up to make sure things are getting done your way, to your standard, from cleanliness to music to TV stations, you name it, everything in your business can be checklist to your standard. That we don't have anything called common sense. And once you hear the word common sense, understand it's bullshit. There is no such thing as common sense. That's what checklists do. Set things up for your standard. Now there's a couple major problems with checklists when we put them together in your restaurants. Well, number one, understand that if you put checklists in place, many of you are thinking right now, watching me or listening to me going, hey, we got checklists, they don't work, they suck. I can't get my managers to use them. I can't get my employees to follow them. They don't work. Well, there's 2 reasons why they don't work in your business. Number 1, your checklists suck. And number 2, you're holding the wrong people accountable. So for instance, if I go on a consult, often I talk to a restaurant owner, they walk me through their business and they tell me, I'll point out all the things that are going wrong. And I go, what did you do? Maybe it was a server, it didn't stock the server station properly, took off, and the manager got all pissed off. I said, what'd you do? Well, they tell me 9 out of 10 times I wrote up the server. I said, wrong, you wrote up the wrong person. See, what we want to do is change things to create a culture in your business, not only where the details matter, but a culture of close to open. That means every manager has every other manager's back, that when they close a shift, it's 100% ready for the next manager to go, that it's ready to open. See, we'll have none of this AM, PM bullshit. I mean, think about it. When's the last time your morning manager walked in, unlocked the door, and walked around and went, oh crap, oh shoot, damn, and got pissed off and looked for 8, 9, 10 things that weren't done last night and bitch and moan about it? And the truth of the matter is, they're in the right to bitch and moan because they have to close the restaurant before they can open it. They are behind for the rest of the day. That restaurant should have been left in pristine order, and that manager should have walked in ready to go. And it's no different than when the AM shift turns over the restaurant to the PM shift. It's 100% ready to go. See, we start to create a culture of close to open. I hand over a restaurant to another manager. When I close my shift, that's 100% ready to open. Now, why is this important? And how do we get there? Well, number 1, I told you, your checklists suck. We'll talk about that in just 1 second. But more importantly, you're holding the wrong people accountable. See, when I talk to that manager about writing up that server for not doing their side work, I say, wrong, you're writing up the wrong person. Who would I write up? The manager on duty. Let me ask you a question. Why do I have managers? Why do I have managers at all? To ensure the process is working. Are not checklists, are not side work processes that I need to make sure are done every single day? I need you to manage the process. So here's the deal. Let's take, for instance, if you're a full service restaurant and a server comes in and hands in their money, it's usually initialed by a senior server that their side work was done. You check that the money's right and you send them home. And you just say, hey, was everything done? Oh yeah, everything's good. And you send them home, right? You have a senior server, a more senior person on team, doesn't get paid more, just last one cut, says, oh, you did your side work, signs off, so we hand their money, it's good. Well, then when that senior server comes into the office to hand in their money, the last person to hand in their money, manager goes, hey, was all the side work done? They go, yeah, everything was done. You say, great. And you say, have a good night. And when you walk out to lock up the bar drawer and you start locking up the lock-in coolers and you see that, oh gosh, the dish pit wasn't done. Oh, there's a bus tub wasn't emptied. Oh, the mop sink wasn't emptied. ... You go through and then you shut off all the lights, lock the door, leave. The next manager in the morning comes in and does the reverse, finds all the problems, gets really, really pissed off, and they should be. Well, here's the deal. I'm not writing up the server for not doing their side work. No. See, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write up you, the manager. Why do I have you in the first place? If you're willing to let employees go home without doing their side work, I'm writing you up. It's not because I'm an ass. It's because I asked you to ensure the process is working. That's your job, man. So here's the deal. When you get that senior server and they handed your money and you send them home, you go around and see side work isn't done, you do it. You make sure you hand a restaurant closed to open, completely ready to open for the next manager to walk in the door. So guess what happens? If you do that 1 or 2 nights, 1 or 2 shifts, and that senior server walks in, you're now from the state of Missouri. You're going to say, hey, senior server, all the side work done? They're like, yep, all done. You're saying, great, show me, right? Missouri, the show me state. There's no conflict in that. You get up off your ass and you go through and say, oh no, need more plates, not enough silver rolled, that wasn't clean, so on and so forth. Guess who has to do the side work now? The senior server. Guess who's not going to let anybody go home without doing their side work again? The senior server. Somebody's going to come up and say, hey, will you check me out? They go, oh, you got to clean the microwave, you got to do this, that, because I'm not doing your work. See, by holding the right people accountable at the top, we get things done in our business. We create a culture of closed to open. Now, the other part of that was, I said, your checklists suck. How do I know? Here's an example of a checklist. Tables angled properly. What the hell does that mean? Right? If you want tables 4 inches from the wall, give them a freaking ruler. Set your standard exactly you want. I think on this list I've got silverware bin roll-ups full. What does that mean? Is there a different par level for a Monday versus a Friday? Of course there is. Are you specific and clear? Look, I don't have a lot of time to go through the long story, but I'm going to tell you this. When my kids were preteens and teenagers, what we did is we implemented checklists in our house to help my wife, who is the good cop and bad cop, because I travel so much. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you look at this, there are 11 steps to clean your toilet in my house. And in fact, there is a column for mise en place. When you look at this and how detailed it is, from the toilet bowl, from the top of the tank to the inside the bowl, outside the bowl, and so on, step by step by step, all the way ultimately saying what success looks like. When it's complete, it should be clean, no smudges, no dirt, ... Are you that specific and clear? See, when you look at your checklist, say they don't work, you walk in and say, oh, they checked the bathroom. And there's standing water on the sink, and there's water spots on the mirror, and the toilet paper's overflowing where people are blowing their nose, and paper towel, and it's coming up, and you're like, oh my gosh, who did this? Well, because you know why? Have you ever been to one of your employees' apartments to see what their standard of clean is? That's why you set the standard. What is clean to you? Free of any spots, water spots on the mirror, no standing water on the sink, right? You go down and say, make sure if it looks half full, the trash can, it gets emptied and refilled with a clean bag. Set your standards. See, here's the deal. If you want to have a restaurant that doesn't require you every single day to do the little stuff, if you want to have a management team know what their job is, how to do it, how well it should be done, more importantly, by when, if you want to be able to work on the big systems that save you thousands of dollars, it starts with checklists. And remember, you're creating a culture of close to open. You have to have opening and closing checklists for all positions. But more importantly, we have to hold the right people accountable, and that's my management team. So do me a favor, look at your checklist, say they're not good enough, and make them better, and change them over and over and over again until your standards are set your way. I'm here with Dan Carr, one of the owners of Visconti's, a group of restaurants in Washington. Incredible operator. Now, I've known Dan and his wife for a long, long time. And gosh, when I first started the company, almost 14 years ago, I think we first met. If you do me a favor, share with everybody who's watching or listening a little bit about yourself, your background, kind of how we met, a little bit about your restaurants.
Candy and I have been together since 1993 in Wenatchee, Washington, with the first Visconti's restaurant. I met Candy about a year earlier than that. I started working with her in the restaurant. The restaurant started growing after we got together. We tried a little bit different change in the concept, revitalized to change it from an Italian, basically pasta house. And we wanted to be able to put steaks in and such. We put in wood-fired ovens, and that started a little bit of an evolution for us. And in 1999, we were able to have the opportunity to move up to Leavenworth, Washington, and open a second restaurant up. And things just started growing. By 2005, we were double-digit growth. Everything was going, but we were making a living. And I had an opportunity to
attend a 4-day workshop when it was 4 days.
Yeah. There were four extremely long days, but it was just revolutionary for us. We came back from that. I'm so excited, and things went, all of a sudden we became profitable. Not just we weren't making a living, we became profitable, and things went fantastic. Then a little thing called 2008 came along, and where our double-digit growth turned to double-digit, decrease in sales by the end of that year. Things we were looking around, okay, what is going on? And I received an email from, the restaurant experts that they had another soup to nuts. So I said, okay, what is it that we were missing in here? We went back, and that's when Candy and I both realized after the first day, David was talking about something that I know was there because I had my papers from the time before. And he was talking about culture. And that was the thing that just clicked with us at that time. And it's not just about the systems you have in place, but it's the culture that the systems put in. We put in uniform systems counts for restaurants, and it got all of our books in line so that we could at least knew ours balanced against, we could compare other restaurants nationally. But we weren't teaching our people to become what we felt. We were busy trying to run restaurants. I was a chef in the kitchen, Candy was on the floor. That's when we joined as a full-time member of SSP, and that was when we really started growing. Moving forward, we are now at a total of, we have 2 Italian gelato shops, we have the 2 Italian restaurants, we have a Neapolitan pizzeria, we have a German sausage garden in the town of Leavenworth, a tourist area in a German town. And then we also have a meat company called Cured by Visconti. It's a USDA meat facility with a retail shop in Leavenworth. We produce all of the meats for all of our restaurant. And all of this, I look back at it, came from the culture, is growing from within. We couldn't find the meats from Europe that we'd gone over and tasted, came back, and we taught ourselves how to start making it. And that's where the meat company came from. We now supply all of our restaurants. We're in the process now of a commissary catering kitchen, and we're about tripling the size of our meat company production facility. And this is all basically just for the growth of what we're doing in the company. But in doing that, the thing that we learned with all the people in Elite and with David is the organizational chart. Learning how to put all of, you've got your prime cost, you've got your labor, you've got your food costs, but what about everything else, putting it all together when you have 8 different businesses and they're all being run the same, but not one of them runs the same cost. Everything, your customer base is different, your product base is different. And without the systems in place, this wouldn't happen because it was that sounding board.
So let me pull this backwards so everybody understands. When we first met, he and his wife Candy Meacham, they came to one of my very first workshops, probably the second workshop I ever put on.
So we're still spreadsheet oriented. We're still checklist oriented. We're still paper oriented. We didn't have Smart Systems Pro. We didn't have software. So they came to the workshop, they learned, and they went home and they made change on their own, which you can do this on your own, absolutely. But as talked about, the recession hit, and once you're on my email list, you're on there forever unless you opt out.
You don't get off.
Yeah. So pulled them back into another workshop. They became members. Still don't have software at this point in time. But the evolution of the company's coming, and because of the recession, that was a big wake-up call for the restaurant industry. That hurt a lot of restaurants. And because all of a sudden people were buying down, weren't spending the same money, buying patterns changed. All these things, these things affect us. But as you notice, as Ant's talking about, and we talk about this all the time, it's really about changing your company culture. So as you listen, the implementation of the systems, that wasn't hard. It's getting the people to do it. It's developing the people on your team. It's things that we've worked on together that they've done an incredible job is documenting their core values, so everybody makes decisions based off he and Candy's core values, not their own. Organizational chart, these are things you think big corporations need to have. Well, any restaurant needs to have. And when you've got a clear line of delineation of what people do, and it's changing culture, it's bringing management from within instead of bringing it from outside, because often that's a tough one. You've had some success, you've had some failures, just like every other restaurant, but developing within. Now, you started to go down a path of, just know when we first met them, they had the one restaurant, then two restaurants, and at one point in time, each one was running a separate restaurant in the thick of it. Yeah. And at this point in time, you've got an operations manager, you've got managers in each of your stores. You're up to how many locations, including the meat?
8.
8 businesses, from 2 to 8. Now, how the heck do you do that? Well, having great organization, all the skills and all the tools of changing company culture and organization. But there's one other piece you started talking about is, I know you understand the importance of budgets. We've worked together for many, many years. We preach budgets. How do we advise you how to budget? But it's one thing to create the plan for success. It's another for measurement. And if you're a multi-unit operator, sometimes we like to jam all of our numbers together and go, oh, look, we did as a company. You discovered how important it was to make sure you are splitting up what's called cost accounting, making sure that if you've got shared rent, if you've got one building, you've got to make sure that each restaurant takes their share of the rent so you can see each revenue center, whether they're profitable or not. Talk a little bit about that. That's a more recent aha, and we've been working together for many, many years. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we have gone now such where we're sitting down. We have a monthly meeting with our accountant, and we made the decision and had to go to them to ask for a complete breakdown on our books. So that you're not just looking at your prime cost, but you're looking at putting your rent out there, you're putting all your utilities, all your fixed expenses, sharing of your insurances between each of the restaurants, so that you really know which one of your little, because a couple of these operations and stuff are, are $250,000, but they're in a very profitable, part of the market. But you need to know how much those are really costing you, because if you don't have these numbers, you're going to look at one of those, in gelaterias and, well, this isn't doing it. But that little lowest volume place is actually a moneymaker. But you don't know this if you're not looking at it. But the big thing there is you're not appreciating the people that are working in that place and the effort that they're putting in, when you realize that they're not on the big picture, but they're a part of the big picture. And you have to realize and turn around and take, they are as important to this company as the rest of them. And it's because it is a culture, and it's organic. Just because one of them does twice the volume of all the, of any of the others, doesn't mean that it's, that it should get all of the, the attention. Everyone has to have the same. But being able to sit down and go through and look at each one of the 7 retail, because the meat USDA facility is a little bit different, but looking at all 7 of them and putting them into a matrix so that the accountants has us look down and see what we're looking at as a company, looking at each one separately, looking at the changes in each one, so that way we're seeing where we're growing, where we have problems that aren't necessarily going to really be noticeable in the changes that are. That's been really exciting for us, because that was, as you said, this evolution. And I remember the first time I sat down and talked to our managers about prime cost, and is that, your prime cost is, 55%. Well, it could be 30% labor and 25% food cost, and then all of a sudden you're going to start making more product alone. All of a sudden your food cost is down. Great, your food cost is now down to 23. And they're going, great, we're going to save 2%. Are you? Or are you going to put that money back into your people? And the thing is, your budget, when you realize that if you set your budget at 55%, the old school, our old minds in the restaurant industry is, all right, cut the food costs, cut the labor costs, cut the food costs, cut the labor costs. But you already have a budget. When you make your budget, you already decide how much money you want to make in your company, and give your managers that tool to make that and make everybody happy. You're going to make your money, rather than the old school of trying to just grab more and grab more.
Well, I think a great example
that I've learned
is in this marketplace in the state of Washington, minimum wage is jumping up, right? Yes. And with that said, new competitors come into your market and they start paying higher than everybody else, and you had a great reaction. And this is a great example of prime cost. You were able to say, okay, we can drive our food costs down, because what'd you do in your kitchen just recently? You gave them a raise, right?
Yes. In our kitchens, we actually through the line cooks in our kitchen, because of the labor crunch here in 2018, and we took it really hard in the Northwest because of the monies. We made a decision. We made a small menu increase, but all of that money came back for specifically one thing, because our food cost was in line. We raised our menu prices, and that money went back to taking care of the back of the house. And we have through the company and stuff, was almost $2 an hour raise throughout the people. We had some major competition come into town, and we knew that there was going to be, they're going to have to get people from somewhere, because they were looking at about 60 employees. We lost nobody.
And so that's really, when we talk about budget, you plan for your profitability, and we talk about prime cost 55. It doesn't matter how you get there, but that's a great example of how you decide, how am I going to compete? How to become an employer of choice? And one of those is pay. They decided almost $2 an hour above and beyond what minimum wage was going. And there's already a high minimum wage in Washington, because they needed to secure and keep good people. And how do they do it? They looked at prime costs. We got to lower our food costs. Most of that was maybe a price increase, but the fact of the matter is, you choose. If there was one takeaway, we've talked about culture, we've talked about org chart, we've talked about core values and budgets and splitting things up, prime costs. If there was one thing you wanted to leave people with as a takeaway, what would be that one thing?
If you don't create a culture in your company, if you don't make it where they can't become part of your family, if you don't have a family. I guess about 2 years ago, we had a gal working for us as a manager that I was walking through the Fire Art Pizzeria, and a server came up and asked, well, it's really kind of slow right now. She goes, I think I can go home, they can handle it. And she goes, well, we got to take care of our, I don't know, if we get hit, it'll be a disaster. And the gal says, well, so I'm just supposed to wait around? She looked at her, Melanie looked at the gal and said, she was pointed over and she goes, read the core values and you make that decision. And she turned around and walked away. And it was just that cemented that what we've been doing is right. And that's the one thing that your budgets, if you have the core values, everybody else will be encouraging. The employees, the managers, they're encouraging us to grow this. They want to see in the software, the thing that you were never going to have. That goes way back. But our management team now is the ones that they're chomping on the bit for the next step. From what we're doing right now with just the new improvements with SSP, which to me is revolutionary. From things that the wish list from the very beginning
Sure.
have all come to fruition now. But It's the culture that we have built, but mostly the culture we built in Candy and I, is that how we've been able to take what we've seen with the restaurant group and all of the people and the members and see that just throughout our entire company, our 175 employees. And seeing that is where they're proud of it, but just how that has, just without it being, we've never gone in and just said we got to put culture in. It's never been that. It's just we understood that the culture needed to change, and it evolves on its own. When you allow things to start growing without the old, as we used to do, micromanage everything. We're working on our business, not necessarily having to be in the business. We're in it every day, but we're in it in such a different way.
So go from being on the floor every single day, in your kitchen every day, to putting systems in place, changing your company culture, and mostly, if I summarize what he's saying, is they really decided to lead their business. When you put these things in place, you're able to let go. Dan, I want to thank you so much for sharing today. We'll talk again, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and David, I want to thank you for, it's been an incredible ride, and we've got a long way to go yet.
Cool.
So, thank you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be sharing with you this software tip. This is a system that is probably the cornerstone to all of your systems, and that's checklists. Now we're going to go into Smart Systems Pro, into the dashboard, and on the left-hand side, we're going to go to the menu bar, and we're going to find Daily Paperwork. If you look down at the bottom, there's a section called Checklist Dashboard. Now, for many of you, as members, this is a recently brand new system. I mean, within the last 6 months. For those of you who are not members, you're going to see this is one of the most powerful things we can offer you. Why? Because it gives you the accountability you need with your team without having to be there, to be able to impose your will like the chain restaurants do without being there. Well, let's first look at the templates you can create. I'm going to go here to this question example and double click. Now I've pre-done this just to kind of show you some of the things that can be done. Number one, you can name this template anything you want. We've got a notification section that you can have different things pushed to you, whether you want when it's completed or when it's not completed, so on and so forth. You've got the ability to create a point system that if you want to gamify this, and like now this is worth 55 points, we can do that. You can make it that it repeats itself on a routine basis, whether it's every single day, every single shift, you name it, 3 days in a row, once a month, it doesn't matter. You can set it right here, when it's supposed to repeat itself and so on. So imagine taking all that stuff out of your head and just putting into a system that's going to manage it for you. Now we've got different types of questions, instructions where you can type in any kind of text you want. We've got your title sections that you can say this section is for the back, let's say back storage area, shelf 2. I don't care, it doesn't matter. It can be first cut, second cut, third cut off, doesn't matter. It says anything in this section now is what those questions are. We have check mark questions, yes, no questions, employees, where you can create a list of employees who to choose from, multiple choice, free response sets, you can put as much information as you want. We've got a short entry where it's a much lower number of characters that can be used. Take a picture. Now this one's really, really cool because if you actually take a photo, our software says, hey man, if you're doing it from a computer, you're going to be able to grab a photo, use it over and over again. But when I show you in a moment that you can have this on your iPad, you have it on your Droid tablet, on your iPhone, your Droid phone, doesn't matter. It's going to say, hey man, you can't use a saved photo. You've got to take a live photo. You've got to take one right now. And that way we don't have somebody using that dumpster picture week after week after week when they never checked it. You're going to be able to see right away. Measurements, this one's really, really cool. You could set temperature measurements that if your cooler is out of temperature when they type it in, it's going to notify you automatically. We've got ratings from 1 to 5, 1 to 10. You can use date, time, and a date time. So at the bottom here, you also have the ability to assign this to a position or to even a station. So for instance, I can assign it to all servers on a specific day, and they can share it and do everything there. Or I could assign this specifically to somebody who's first cut. and they have their own checklists. No matter how detailed or broad you want to be, you can do that. I can also share it with specific employees. If I just want to put it with this one manager, that's all I want to share it with, or multiple, doesn't matter. You've got all this flexibility built in. Now that we have a chance to look at that, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go in here at the top and it says redirect checklist assigned to me. So if I'm a manager logging in right now and I go take a look, here are the checklists and here's the checklist example one that we have. And as we go through, you notice we've got the check mark, the yes, no, the employees, and it's a matter of just choosing any of these things, right? Doesn't matter. I'm not going to fill all this in. I just kind of want to show you how it's going to display for your management team or any of your team members that use it. Now, let me show you something that's really, really cool. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen on my phone, and in the bottom here, I'll take my mouse here, and I'll show you there's this green Smart Connect. Smart Systems Pro Connect. Free app. I'm going to click on it, and it's got my checklist. So when I click on my phone here, and I click on the example questions, here they are. So I have the ability to click on that check mark. I have the ability to say yes or no that was completed. And notice it's logging in that, in this case, I'm the manager, Abby Anderson. It's logging in what I've got. I can add comments by clicking on the employee comment here and say they were late. I don't know what I mean by that. I can send it. I could send a picture. Now what it's going to do is going to have this live comment there for you. As we go there, free response, I can type any information in. I can come down here, and here's the thing to take a picture. I'm going to take a picture of this water bottle, use the photo, and now it's going to upload, and there's that picture, right? You can't use one from your phone. You've got to take the picture of it. My 1 to 5 rating, my 1 to 10 rating, I can have a calendar pop up. Doesn't matter, whatever the questions are. Now, what's beautiful about this is you now have the accountability, because I can later look back as a manager, notice it says 7 of the 13 questions are complete. Well, if I don't have any of it complete, notice there is a number 2. There's 2 messages there, or alerts, I should say. So it may be a message I've got to look at that somebody commented in there, or I've got 2 checklists that are assigned to me that I'm past due or I should be completing. It's all there. All this is go in there and take a look, and it's going to give me the information. Look, if you want to take your restaurant to the next level, if you truly want to implement all these systems, the cornerstone to all your systems are checklists. Log in today and take a look. If you need help, please give us a call, toll free at 1-877-457-6278. Dial extension 106 if you'd like to learn more if you're not a member. If you're a current member, make sure you dial support. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Chat, email, and call. We'd love to help you.
I'm here with Lisa Rath, one of our expert coaches here at therestaurantexpert.com and a personal friend of mine because we grew up in this business damn near together at Coyote Springs. I've known her for many, many years now, 20 plus years at this point in time.
25.
She's been working with us for the last 3, and I got to tell you, this is somebody that everybody's got to meet. Lisa, do me a favor. Number 1, thanks for doing this for me today. Tell everybody a little bit about your background.
I got into the restaurant business right after college. I moved to Phoenix and didn't really know what I wanted to do at that point. So I got a job at Coyote Springs Brewing Company. If you've been members long enough, you probably recognize the name of that because that's where we met. And I started out as a server there. And David came in and he was a bartender. So we both went up into management, and I did the catering for our second location back then. And after that, I took a 10-year hiatus from the hospitality industry and worked in a small family business doing the books. So basically, I took all my skills and applied them into a different line of work.
So bottom line is we still were systems, still customer service related, but even more drilled down to the numbers. And in fact, she's leaving a little bit out. When I left Coyote Springs, at some point in time, she ended up doing all the stuff I used to do. So really, really experienced in restaurants, systems, operations, but probably one of the best customer service people I know. With that said, for the last 3 years, you started with us actually working with my business partner, Chef Fred Langley, doing our high-end consulting, our management consulting services, and you were damn near on an airplane on a twice, 3 times a month basis. Talk a little bit about how you started and where you are today.
When I first came on, specifically to help Fred do the management consulting clients. And he trained me from the ground up, trained me on everything. And what happened was I got to the point where I was traveling on my own. I would take some of the clients and he would. And we would go in and implement these systems, and it was an amazing thing to watch, because what happens is that all of a sudden these people they've actually implemented the systems and they're making all kinds of money. And so it was quite honestly very rewarding. And the other thing I did here was I also was the trainer. We have the monthly trainings here. Brittany does that now, but I did that for a couple of years, trained people on the software and the systems. And now I am going out and helping our regular members set up their systems so that they can expedite their results.
So the whole idea now with Lisa is getting out on the road and helping our individual members get damn near the same results as our high-end consulting clients. How is it that you can use the software and speed up the process? It's kind of a combination of Smart Systems Pro training in your building, along with implementation in your building and follow-up that goes along with it. Again, think of it as almost a shot in the arm, like a systems accelerator with profitability as your benefit, right?
Exactly. That is exactly it. And what happens is that what I found is that when you expedite the process and you don't have to wait a week to teach your staff one new thing every week, they get it all in 2 days, and it's amazing because it all kind of comes together. I've been out at places where they did not want me to come. The managers were not happy that I was there, because all they had been doing was these tasks every day, but they hadn't seen the full picture. They hadn't put it all together yet. So once they saw that and we expedited the process and set it up and they could actually start analyzing the numbers, they were completely on board, most of them, not all of them.
Oh, there's people who hate us. We get it. We suck. We create work. Talk a little bit about, since you've had the on-the-ground experience, both on the high-end consulting and the implementation side of things, training. You've done the SSP trainings for 2 years. You are a coach with our members on a weekly basis already, and you handle support as well. What are some of those challenges that you find stop people? Like, take the individual member who isn't ready to spend big money for consulting and says at 347 they can do it, right? I mean, you could do everything that we teach
Absolutely.
and do on your own. It's just a matter of speed. But what is it that stops them? What are those major challenges you find?
Do you mean just stops them from
implementing, getting results? Yeah.
Just generally speaking, you will find different personalities for sure in this industry. And the big things I find are owners don't want to hold their people accountable. They don't want to be the bad guy. So one of the neat things, in fact, with consulting was that they didn't have to be the bad guy. We were the bad guy. And that was okay because they got to save face, but we were still implementing their will. This is just kind of a smaller version of that. But I find that is probably the single biggest issue that we have is owners being able to hold their people accountable, being able to look at them and deal with confrontation and the whining that comes with it sometimes. I mean, let's get real. These are managers. They're in the restaurant business. And if they whine long enough, you just don't want to listen to it anymore. But you have to be able to get past those things in order to put the systems in. Plus, some just don't see the benefit because they haven't set it up and they haven't actually experienced the benefits of it. So to get past all of those issues, expediting it, the implementation and the setup, and then the follow-up training gives them the results that they're looking for sooner. Right? Again, if you're only doing this 1 hour a week with a coach, that's fine. You can still get it done. And a lot of people do. There's no question about it. But if you can get that training in 2 days and start analyzing the numbers sooner, then everybody will see it. You will be able to attack your problems, be it cost of goods sold or your labor. You'll be able to attack those problems and hopefully see the change to your bottom line sooner.
So let's talk a little about it. So the biggest challenge is accountability. And translation for me is that's lack of leadership. Just
without a doubt.
because you own a restaurant doesn't make you a born leader, and it takes leadership to be successful in this business. And with all this work and all these tasks that we load on to you, now granted, some of the stuff that we teach is stuff you're already doing. You should be balancing your numbers every single day. You should be tracking your invoices every single day. You should be doing schedules every week. You should be able to do these things. But now you have to do it at a specific way. You have to do it by a specific time. More importantly, you have to do it on budget. And that's where all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is hard. There's nothing hard about it. What the biggest thing is, the leadership side and holding them accountable. So how is it that it's different? If they're working with a coach right now and they've got their weekly meetings every single 1 hour a week to go over it, that's a pretty big commitment on our part. When you go in the store, talk a little bit about how it's different. They could fly here and take training. We do 2-day trainings, software free of charge 10 times a year. Well, what is it about being in the store that makes it different from them? How is it not just a training here at the office? What makes it different in their store?
I think a lot of it is getting to know me personally and being able to work with them kind of one-on-one rather than in a group like you would in training. It's also working with their own numbers. That's key. Brittany does a great job teaching here, but it's all on a kind of a made-up restaurant
Demo. It's
server.
our demo server, yeah.
And so being able to work with your actual numbers, being able to learn everything all at once, and being able to take their own invoices, put them in, their own end of day numbers and put them in, then they can actually see the system kind of coming to life. It's helpful to go on site because what we do is we'll also help you set up your inventory, right? Shelf to sheet is huge and it's time consuming. And a lot of people don't like to do it, and I get that. But that's one of those other items that they really appreciate when you come on site and that you can't get if you come to a training here, right? But also we can do batch recipes. We can basically set up the system to get you through phase 1 where you are analyzing your numbers on a weekly basis.
And that's a big deal because phase 1, if you remember on the 4-phase plan, if you're in Smart Systems Pro, the bottom line is getting you to a budget variance report. That which we measure improves. Starting with your budget, where your targets are, and then putting those first wave of systems in that you can measure every single week and figure out where you are, where you've hit, where you've missed, and then having, let's say if your food cost is off in week 1, you got 3 weeks to fix it. Not 15 days in the next period if you get your P&L by then to go, hey, chef, your numbers are off, and now we're debating whether they're accurate or not, and then we've got bullshit excuses. Even if they buy in, you've made the same dumbass mistake for 45 days in a row, and now you as an owner want it fixed.
Like that, they want it fixed.
Right? So you come in, now there's a little prep work, right? We're going to have a budget done before you get on the ground.
Have to have a budget done.
What are the other small things that get done before you show up?
It's a good idea to have the system set up. Get your vendors in, make sure your end-of-day reporting is correct. And basically, I like to get managers through the daily paperwork before I even show up. Because that way, we don't have to spend a lot of time on the tedious tasks, right? That's just data entry is what it is. And we can kind of get down to the heart of it if they have some of these daily tasks done. So I like to have that done. I like to have a budget done. And if it goes a little further and they get into the labor systems before I get there, all the better. The more knowledge, the better, because that just pushes us into a different realm. So it just depends kind of how quickly they're learning.
So I'll give you an idea. So if somebody were to sign up today, they're not a prime candidate for you. They're probably about a month in that they've got some of the basic structure set up in Smart Systems Pro. We have, from our side, set up your employees. We've already set up your departments and positions. Your products have been uploaded, made usable, and so on. So there's some building blocks that need to happen, which we're already going to help you with. So let's say if you're a month in, you're doing daily paperwork. You're using the purchase allotment system. You're getting that benefit. So now when she comes in, imagine this. Take a 2-day software training. And because we've already taken care of some of these things, I don't think people understand what a big deal it is for if they need help creating a batch recipe that you could actually stand in their kitchen and go, this is how you figure out yield. This is how you put it together with their own products, not a theory, right?
Absolutely. I've done that in many kitchens before. We just go sit down, bring our pad of paper, and create the batch recipes as we speak. A lot of people already have them written down. And so what was one of my favorite visits was to a restaurant in Connecticut where day one we kind of went through the entire system, right? I mean, we spent 8-10 hours on it, but got through the entire system because day two we went in early, set up their inventory, and I had everybody sitting around doing batch recipes, right? So I could be there to answer any questions. And we got so much done. And all of our inventory was, their inventory got set up along with their batch recipes. So they were just on that level where we could do it that quickly.
Bottom line is this: you can do this all on your own. The biggest challenge you have is lack of leadership or holding people accountable. They're symbiotic with me. We can do that. The problem is your employees don't work for us. So if they miss a weekly call, if they delay getting something done or whatever, and they excuse it away, often you buy it. Now, if you have us out, particularly Lisa out in your building with years of consulting experience working directly under Chef Fred Langley, my business partner, who y'all know, literally from the ground up, getting every single system in place, getting people just tremendous results. Now imagine in a 2-day visit, you're on that same path. In fact, you have some members that actually bring you up for follow-up visits to kind of continue that speed, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes you just need a little boost, kind of get yourself back on track. But the other thing I would like to say about it is when I come out, the management team, I can be the bad guy. And like I said, ownership doesn't want to be the bad guy. And I can be the bad guy. And I will follow up. I have at least 2 months that I like to follow up with them before I send them back to their regular coach. And what that does is that's follow up, making sure that they got their schedules in, making sure that their inventories are done. And just like a consulting client, basically for the following 2 months. And what that does is that kind of keeps them on track and keeps the owner from having to be that person just yet. But it also it helps them develop their habits, because this sounds hard at the beginning, and I think a lot of people are trepidatious about it because it can be overwhelming. It can, but when they become part of your daily routine. Ask any of our MCS clients; it's just part of their job now. They don't even think twice about it, and they have all this information at their fingertips.
So the benefits aren't just implementation; it's she becomes the accountability, the leader part. But what's most amazing that I think you left out there is, I can't tell you how many coaching members we have that have brought Lisa out, that Lisa has literally changed the world for that owner, because you've got the owner in the habit of holding accountable. What to look at on a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday. That's literally kind of a checklist kind of system to make sure allotments got done, your inventories are accurate, so on and so forth. So there's a little bit more. There's that culture change, and you really help the owner become a better owner, yeah?
Well, that's the goal, and I think in most cases we do make that kind of a difference, because once they start seeing the profitability, and I think just their managers kind of being happier because it's black and white now, and they know that I either do it or I don't, and it's not subjective, or it's not. It just becomes black and white, and you can hold them accountable or not, and it's not personal, and it kind of takes the whole personal thing out of it, with checklists and, you did the labor allotment or you didn't. You went over budget or you didn't. It's very simple.
Do me a favor. I'm sure at this point in time, before we kind of get in the brass tacks of how they find you or contact you to learn more, what's the one thing you'd like people to know? The one thing that if they really want success that you've seen, what is it, whether it's the accountability or reiteration of that, or there's something else, one piece of advice, say, man, if you're going to move forward with these systems, this is what you have to do. What would that be?
I think that it would be the accountability. I think that if you're going to move forward with these systems and you're going to commit to it, because it is kind of a commitment, and if you're going to do that, you have to hold them accountable. You have to, and include them in the process too. Show them the numbers. I've met a lot of owners who don't want to show the numbers, and I think that's not a benefit to anyone. Show them the numbers. Show them where they're doing well. Show them where they're not doing well, and give them the tools to find those problem areas and fix them. But you got to hold them accountable. You can't let them skate because I was busy this week, so I couldn't get my schedule in the system.
You know, it takes you back to when you worked with Greg Sauerback and decided this was the journey you want to go on. He often tells you, you've got to be willing to share your numbers. You've got to make sure you're not the only one that's going to do it. And in fact, you need one person on your team who's an implementer. And that's the third piece that when Lisa's on the ground, she identifies that person because they show themselves to her, not to you, to her. They go, I'm the implementer. I'm so excited about this. And they show they get shit done, right?
They do.
I mean, so it's masterful. Talk a little bit about what the investment is and how they would learn more about it.
You can contact me at any time right here at the Restaurant Expert. I'm at extension 112, so that's 623-266-9611, extension 112. You can also email me, lisa@therestaurantexpert.com. If for some reason I'm not available, Greg Sauerback can help you. Anybody here can probably answer these questions, but Greg would be a good alternative.
So
to me.
If you want to learn more about what Lisa does, I'll give you the toll-free number. She's, not that anybody pays for any calls anymore. 1-877-457-6278 at extension 112. Greg is at 106. Lisa, I want to thank you for taking time to meet with us.
My pleasure.
We're going to bring Lisa back at some point in time to kind of share with you some of the things she's seen on the ground. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
I'm really excited to have my expert today is Eric Cacciatore. He is a podcaster of Restaurant Unstoppable. I've known Eric for about 3 years from the time where he had this idea and started going and creating this podcast to where it is today that it is a major podcast in the industry. If you're not listening, you're going to be after today. Eric, I want to welcome you today.
Oh, thanks for having me, David. I got to say, this is a very surreal moment for me. 5 years ago, starting this podcast, you came on my radar and I was like, I got to get that guy on the show. Now the table has been turned. You flipped it on me. I'm on your show and it's an honor. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Do me a favor. You've got a pretty unique story. You're kind of like me in the sense that you've grown up in this business or been in it a long time. But this idea, you grew into this podcast. How did it start?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a super fast forward version. Grew up in the restaurant industry, became a commercial pilot, resigned from aviation when I was 26 years old. Found myself wanting to go to my part-time job more, which was working in a restaurant industry. My favorite role in the restaurant industry is maitre d', front of house, host, serving. Did a little bit of back of house stuff, but really, I started listening to podcasts when I went back to school for marketing and hospitality. And I was working at a winery at the time in the basement as the assistant winemaker all by myself all day. And one of my professors turned me on to podcasting, and it blew my mind that there were no good restaurant podcasts at the time. And that's what I was in search for. Since there weren't a lot of restaurant podcasts, I was listening to a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts, personal growth podcasts. And in those podcasts, I learned a lot about business and how to just start and how to be an entrepreneur. And one of the biggest lessons I learned is that if you were in search for something and you can't find it, odds are you're not the only person looking for it. So that was kind of my light bulb moment. And I just wanted to ask questions and learn from successful restaurateurs. And another quote that really drove me was that I can't exactly remember the quote, but I'll paraphrase. If you make your life about serving other people and just exist to serve other people, opportunities will come back to you. So that those two things, those two variables really kind of drove me just to kind of take a leap and just to start talking to people and start recording these conversations and creating this melting pot of mentors.
Well, you've done an incredible job. I can't remember, you're up to 500 something episodes. What are you up to now?
574 went live yesterday.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So talk to me about how is it that you choose who's going to be one of your guests? I've been a guest several times now. I know some of my good friends who speak all over the country are consultants and gurus, if you will, have talked with you. There's lots and lots of people out there, but you talk to chefs, you talk to owners. How do you choose who's going to be a guest?
In the early days, it was a lot of just research, looking at resources like James Beard Awards and Eater or any publication, Thrillist. But as the show has evolved, as I've grown my network, I really tried to, one of the questions I ask all my guests, the last question I ask all my guests is, who's somebody that you respect and admire in this industry and believe would make a great guest mentor on the show? And it's really just organic, me talking to people and finding out who these successful people respect and admire. And if they look up to somebody, odds are it's going to be a good lead. And now I'm on the road. Now I'm basically, traveling the nation, living out of my car, staying short-term places, and I'm really getting into the communities. I'm really networking hard and talking to people. And my research is really the podcast. Like, I'm doing my research as I'm talking to people. What was your come up? That's something we talk about in every show. Who did you work for? Who are your key mentors? What did they teach you? And you do 15 of those interviews in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and you start to see patterns. You start to see, the cool thing about the restaurant industry is, great creates great, right? So you'll see that if somebody's doing an amazing job, odds are they came up through somebody else who was doing an amazing job. So you kind of just work your way backwards, and you just network and you just listen, really is all I do.
It's kind of like a NLP, neuro-linguistics programming, Anthony Robbins stuff, modeling. If you find people who do successful stuff, learn from them, do what they do. And so you're really creating this big library of success stories of what people do, so that if you're an operator, no matter whether you're a chef, an owner, a server, whatever, if you've got a passion for this industry, there's a crap ton of incredible stories and knowledge on your site when we talk about listening to your podcast. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, it's honestly getting to the point where it's almost overwhelming for me. Like, I gotta really slow down. I gotta slow down to speed up, where I just go through my content and start organizing it and seeing what I have. I've been so pedal to the metal just going forward for the past 5 years. It's kind of astonishing what I have created and what I have archived. I want to really organize it and get it clean, so my listeners can just go and search and find the content they're in.
What do you think maybe the top 3 lessons you've learned from restaurant operators? I know you talk to experts and stuff like that, but if you talked about restaurant operators, whether chef operators or not, doesn't matter. What do you think those top 3 that in the back of your brain might be?
You want to go to the obvious, systems, processes, procedures, culture, and all that stuff. That's the easy stuff. I think really one saying I always say, something I truly believe: behind every great restaurant's a great person. Greatness, you can't have a great restaurant until you become a great person. It's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned. And obviously just the power of surrounding yourself with people who are knowing your lane and knowing and seeing the talent in other people and giving them opportunity. It's really about who you surround yourself with and the opportunity you create for others. And there's just so much. It's so hard to distill it down to 3, David. One thing, relationships for sure. It's all about relationships. It's about managing relationships. And the other thing is, you've got to get out of the way and let your people excel at what they do. And there's a third biggest lesson, man, just hustle. And it sounds so duh, but it's so true. It's that easy and it's that hard, right? Put your nose down, keep showing up. And nobody's going to work harder your restaurant than you are. You set the pace. So you've really got to bust your butt and make that example. Lead from the front. Leaders pull. Leaders don't push. They pull. So I don't know. I think that I just gave you 10.
I like them all. But one of the things you kind of brushed over culture and systems, and that's us, the restaurantexpert.com. But I appreciate where you're coming from. And you really kind of summarize what it's going to be successful today, especially with the millennial generation. These are people who want to belong to something bigger. They want to be mentored. They want flexibility. They want to learn. And so a lot of what you summarized is you've got to be a restaurant owner, a leader in your business that really is geared towards millennials anymore, because otherwise you're not going to have the team that you want. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. There's just so many reasons to operate in a way that it's about everybody else. And when you have the mentality that when you have these people working for you, when you kind of force them into a mold, you're limiting their potential. And when you open up and you ask for their input and you involve them and you try to find out where their lane is, you become the sum of all the people you surround yourself with, and you cannot suppress that. You have to let them feel like they're contributing. First, they're going to feel like they're growing. They're going to feel like they belong. When you listen and you care about what they say, they're going to become loyal to you. Like I said, it's about relationships. It's about caring. It's no longer about the transactional relationship of I hire you, you collect a paycheck for me, and you leave. It's we are a family, and I respect you, and they're not going to respect. The return and respect isn't going to come until you respect that.
And I want everybody to understand. Eric's talked over almost 600 experts and restaurant owners and chefs in the world. And you think about that. That's major research. How many of you have talked to more than 10 of your competitors to learn, right? I mean, we're talking almost 600 people to gain all the information and find that insight. That's what's incredible about what Eric has provided in Restaurant Unstoppable. Now,
yeah,
go ahead. Well, I was going to say on the expert side, what about the expert? We're going to talk over each other because we're both microphone people, right?
Right.
Bottom line is, when we talk about the expert side, is there one or two things that you've learned from experts that you go, man, that was a writer down, or that was a take home?
Ooh, this might be just a real general. If you're looking for like one nugget, man. I don't have one specific nugget that comes to mind, but if I zoom up to like 30,000 feet, you pointed out that I've done all this research, and when you said that, it kind of was like, wow, I guess I have. It hasn't really settled on me that I've done all this research. To me, I think the biggest thing is you don't look at yourself as an expert, you look at yourself as a student. And when you look at yourself as a student first, and you make it about constantly learning, like I'm never going to have all the answers. There's not going to be one expert that has all the answers.
True.
They will not exist. And there's no one way to do it is another thing I've learned. Like there's a million different ways to get from New Hampshire to California. You know what I'm saying? Like it all depends on what matters most to you. So I think the most important thing is to get that clarity on what you want to create, to have that vision of who you want to be and what you want to do, and then work backwards. So maybe that's the thing. Start with the end in mind. Always start with the end in mind and work backwards. So you know where you're going, and you can share that vision with other people, so everybody's going in the same exact direction. And I think that's another nugget. Like people need to know where you're going, because if you get different visions, everyone's gonna be pulling in different directions. And imagine the force of 30 people pulling on the same rope in one direction, how much faster you're gonna get there, versus if everybody was pulling in a central point away from each other. Like you're not gonna get anywhere.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot. So basically what you talked about before, what you just said now, because I love vision and I love leadership and all the things you talked about. How do you know where success looks like if you don't have a goal? And that's that vision part. How do you, again, we don't want to push, we want to pull people along with that vision, clarity, why we do what we do, but there's one piece that was missing there. And I'm going to feed it to you, and I think your eyes are going to light up. You know, the one thing about, you said, put all the energy in, get it all done, having the vision, leading people, all that stuff, passion. Talk about, I bet that there is a common thread with everybody you interview about the passion for this frickin' industry. Am I wrong?
I'm happy you're bringing passion up, because I have a theory on passion. I think we're given our passion. I don't think we know our passion until somebody has highlighted it for us. And I think it's so important if you see something in somebody, a skill in somebody, if they do something really well, I think passion is the recognition of being good at something. We become passionate about something when we get acknowledged for that thing that we do. And it's the cookie, it's the recognition that we crave as humans. We're tribal animals. We need to find our lane. We need to feel like we're contributing. And when somebody identifies something that we do really well, that's like the best feeling ever. Like talk about self-actualization. This is my purpose in life, right? So you gift a passion to somebody by identifying what they do well, and you reinforce what they do well. And it's up to us as mentors, as leaders, to help people find their passion, to identify strengths and weaknesses. So I don't know if I'm answering your question.
You are, brother.
But passion is so important, and people aren't going to just trip on their passion. Like you need to put a spotlight on what it is that they're meant to do.
But isn't that the most common thing you find with everybody you interview? Is that you're bringing out, they're sharing their passion, like the love for the industry, whether it's food, whether it's helping people. It's just like it exudes. It's like magic, no?
Yeah, and it's like passion. I think Thomas Keller puts it really good too. It's desire. It's desire, a need to be recognized, a need to do the thing really well. It's a bunch. I don't think it's just one thing, but passion is absolutely a key variable in the equation to success, for sure.
So a couple things that I like that you also do on your podcast is you're always asking the people what books they've read, software they've used, what tools they use, and so on. Talk about how you came up with that it's not just about learning from them, it's learning from what they've learned from. Where did that idea come from?
Well, the mission statement for Restaurant Unstoppable is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. And when I'm basically what I'm looking for is that's the empowering part. Like, what are the tools that other people are using that they recommend? And it's overwhelming if you're just getting into this industry, or maybe you're a chef and like your lane was the back of house and you're going to go open your first restaurant. There's so many things that are just outside of your wheelhouse. If you could just go to one spot where you could look at a list of tools and services that are recommended by successful people, to me, like that was just like, I want to create this thing where you're not being sold to. It's a community, it's a safe circle where it's for the industry, by the industry, you know? And that's kind of, it's a melting pot of mentors. I'm bringing all these people from across the industry, mostly independents, but I'm starting to open up a little bit and get some smaller chains and corporations on the show, just because we can learn so much from them. So really what I'm trying to do is just it's a referral center, basically, books and tools, like, so you can kind of have that ease of mind, narrow it down from like 100 to like 10. You know?
I think it's awesome. And if everybody can't tell that Eric doesn't have any passion for this whatsoever, right? I mean,
dude, my heart's racing right now. I just got back from like a 15-mile bike ride, just to like kind of get my mind, like the endorphins running, and I'm carrying that through.
You didn't need to do that. Once we start talking, it all goes. It all goes. But think about this. You started as basically a line employee in this industry, and wanted to take the desire to say, okay, the industry's missing this podcast. It needs more. And just, again, the passion you've put into learning. And what's amazing is you're learning, and while you learn, you're sharing with everybody. Everybody gets an opportunity to learn. So do me a favor. Before I say, okay, how do we find all your stuff? If there was one thing, go ahead. You wanted to say something?
Can I tag on to that real quick?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that you find your lane, no matter what you're doing. In my life, I've always been really great in supportive roles. I'm not the rock star chef. I'm not the rock star bartender. I have like the memory of a goldfish sometimes when it comes to short-term memory. Like I can't if I'm a server, like you give me 3 or 4 things, like I'm going to start to lose it after that. But I've always really excelled in supportive roles and caring for other people and making sure that rock star bartender and that rock star server has everything they need to do what they do really well. So this is a continuation of that for me. Like I'm really good in supportive roles, and I see Restaurant Unstoppable as just being a supportive role to the industry. Like I love serving people, and there's no other person or people in the world that I love more than restaurant people, because they're the hardest, passionate, most just genuine, authentic people. And that's kind of why I'm doing.
Well, I got news for you, brother. There are no rock stars without people like you, just so we're clear, right?
I just, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, what I was trying to get to is I want to give everybody an opportunity to find you on the net and Apple and all that stuff. But before I do, if there was one thing, just one thing that you wanted people to either know about you, know about themselves, what they should be looking for in life to make them better, something you've come across, if there was just one thing, what's that one thing?
It's just mindset, man. It's a mindset of, I think my mindset is I'm a student, and some people have given me criticism over that, like, oh, you gotta project that you're the expert. I'm like, I'm here to learn. I'm here to, once you think that you're like the best and you have everything, like I feel like it stops. And I know that wasn't a hit on the restaurant expert.
It's all good.
Because you know your stuff. But like it's just who I am. I'm a curious person. So find out who you are. And get into the right mindset. It's just mindset's so powerful. And I think just coming from a place of gratitude and just being happy with what you have and not what, don't focus on what you don't have, focus on how far you have come. Those little things like that, they really do make a big difference.
No, absolutely. I'm all for it. And we're the restaurantexpert.com only because Restaurant Expert was taken. And with that said, we learn every single day. So I'm good. I wasn't hurt. I mean, I'll cry later, but it's all right. So do me a favor. How does somebody find you? Because just understand that anybody who's watching this video or listening to this on the podcast, we're kind of separating the audio and doing that as well. I won't be anywhere near as popular on podcasts as you are. But no matter what, that's somebody who's watching us is somebody who needs to be listening to you. How do they find you? How do they find your podcast? How do they subscribe? Tell us.
It's, I'm going to brush my shoulders off here, but if you just Google search restaurant podcast, you'll find the podcast. It's kind of pretty much the number one search result on Google if you just do restaurant podcast. But you can head over to restaurantunstoppable.com. You can go to iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify. I believe I'm on Google Play now, and soon to be Pandora. So pretty much all the major audio players, podcast players. If you search restaurant on all those players, you can yeah, you can find it. It's
Are
pretty
you
easy.
listed as Restaurant Unstoppable as the podcast on each of them?
Yes, Restaurant Unstoppable.
Okay, so
Yeah.
make sure you find it. Make sure you subscribe. I got to tell you, Eric, I'm really glad to return the favor. Again, I've probably been on your show 3 times, I think. It's been incredible. We've always had people reach out to us after listening to it. So your audience is huge. I only wanted to get bigger and better. So everybody do know that I wouldn't bring Eric on here if I didn't think it was top notch, and you need to subscribe. So you need to just understand. Eric, I want to go ahead.
I was gonna say, and it's not just me talking, going crazy. Like, I'm just asking questions. I'm just being curious, and it's the most successful restaurateurs in the world sharing how they did it. So it's not just me; it's these other people.
Well, again, I think everybody understands that, because if you had me on, everybody knows you didn't get a chance to talk at any time. So anyway, Eric, I want to thank you so much. I hope everybody reaches out to you. If they wanted to email you or contact you, is there any way they can do that other than the podcast?
Yeah, Eric, ERIC at restaurantunstoppable.com, restaurant singular.
Fantastic. Eric, I want to thank you so much, and I wish you greatest success.
Thank you, Dave. It was an honor. Thank you.
I'm so excited you took the time to watch this month's episode of the Smart Systems Insider. This video magazine was chock full of information, great ideas, things you can put into place right now. It started with an interview with one of my elite members, Dan Carr of Visconti's and the Pacific Northwest in Washington, where he literally talked about he and Candy's growth from 2 restaurants to 8 and even more now, and why it's so important to run your business based off a budget and your numbers, how that gives you the clarity with your management team and a roadmap for success. I taught about how important checklists are. Right? Starts with Restaurant 101, but after that, it's checklists and cash controls. Without checklists, you cannot get the big systems done. It creates a culture in your business of not only the details matter, but closed to open, and how important that is to make sure each of your managers are held accountable to those checklists and why they're so important. Next, I really enjoyed my expert interview with Eric Cacciatore, the premier, like the #1 podcast out there for restaurant owners and managers, chefs alike. I mean, he's a great guy, and he shared about his journey of how he got searching for something out there that would help him better himself in our industry, and instead he created it. And how important it is to have passion for the business, but more importantly, to always continue to learn. I had an interview with one of our coaches, Lisa Rath, a dear personal friend of mine I've known for 20 years, who's been on our team for 3+ years, who goes out in the field and helps you implement systems. And she shared with you the importance of accountability, that without you driving the process, these systems can't go into place. But she also shared with you, if you stayed to the end of our interview, of how you can have her out to your business and actually buy speed. Look, I hope you found this episode extremely powerful. You've learned, got inspired, and ready to kick some ass. Do me a favor before you go, make sure you subscribe now to my YouTube channel so we can notify you automatically when the next episode goes up. I look forward to seeing you next month.